Big Blue! The time is now. The Giants open their season on the road against the Titans in the first game since January 9th. A lot has changed in East Rutherford. New GM, new head coach, and a new sense of hope for Big Blue. In this week's Big Blue preview, we're going to break down the Week 1 matchup, get to know our opponent, and get familiar with who could potentially be this week's Giants killer. But first, let's kick things off with an offensive overview with Giants beat writer Paul Schwartz. It's Week 1, Giants, Titans. I got my guy on the line, New York Post Giants beat writer Paul Schwartz. Paul, let's break this thing down, man, because the time is here. Giants fans can no longer go crazy on Twitter, like they need to do this, the time is here. The Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, Wink Martindale era is finally here. What are you excited about most going into this Week 1 matchup against the Titans?
Well, first of all, I think Giants fans are not going to stop tweeting. I mean, I know what you mean. Yes, they love it in training camp. They love the preseason. And then you think, okay, the season starts. Let's get down to business. And then, 1, 3 and out, and the tweeting starts and all that stuff. Oh, Brandon, I thought this was going to be like a Chelsea live segment. We're going to talk about sacking the manager. No, that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I'm Giants blue. I'm Chelsea blue, and I'm blue because Thomas Tuchel is no longer the manager at Chelsea. But yes. I mean, look. We've seen coaches be sacked when it comes to Giants football.
Yeah,
Brian Daboll.
You're right.
We've seen enough. We've seen enough of coaches be sacked. So I'm trying to stay on the positive going into the season this year. Brian Daboll. I mean, I think here's what I'm excited about most, Paul. Obviously, being a former receiver, I want to see this offense opened up. The Titans are without Harold Landry. You look at what he did last year, double-digit sacks. He was a menace. He was a force on that defensive line. It doesn't matter to me. I really don't care who the Titans line up. I want to see why Brian Daboll made Josh Allen so successful these last couple of years, why Stephon Diggs got paid up in Buffalo. I want to see if he can do that with Daniel Jones and a guy like Kadarius Toney or a Kenny Galladay. I want this offense opened up. I remember back in minicamp when we were doing the post-game practice report, and everyone was just in awe when we saw Saquon just motion out of the backfield, and we were like, oh my gosh, like this guy's going to be awesome on Madden because of this new offense. Right. Yeah. I can't wait to see it all put in place against another team where it matters. And now is the time. I think Giants fans have been waiting for a glimpse of some sort of modern offense for a long time, and we finally get to see it on Sunday.
Well, the thing is that we didn't see it in the summer, right? Sometimes you get glimpses in the summer. We really didn't even see it in training camp. Usually you say, in training camp, there's a few plays where you say, okay, that's what they're trying to do here. We haven't even seen that. Yep. Kadarius Toney wasn't on the field much. Kenny Galladay was on the field, but really wasn't engaged much. Wan'Dale Robinson is a rookie. And, you see some of this stuff in training camp. You see none of it in the preseason games. You see none of it. So, yes, I agree with you that I think on Sunday, look, I'm not saying they're going to score 30 points, but we are going to get a much better vision of what Brian Daboll views this offense as. I think there's going to be a lot of wrinkles that we maybe didn't expect. A guy even like Matt Breida, the backup running back. I think they're going to throw the ball downfield to this guy on a swing route or something like that at least once in this game. So, my takeaways, number one is, we got in the locker room for the first time in more than 2 years this week.
Yep.
Okay. So I never was in a locker room with guys like Andrew Thomas, certainly not with Kadarius Toney. And my feeling and my sense of Kadarius Toney is much greater now than it was 3 days ago before I got in the locker room, where it was on Zoom and it was contentious and he was hurt and we were talking about injuries and things. Him just sitting in his locker, calm, cameras off, and just chatting gives me a good feeling that this guy's head is on straight, that he is ready to be an NFL player and be a first round pick. So that maybe more than anything on the field, I am looking forward to seeing Daniel Jones throw the ball to Kadarius Toney on Sunday and seeing what happens there.
Giants Twitter, we're going to cut that and we're going to pump that out to Giants Twitter for all the people who is like, oh no, this guy wants to win a Grammy. He wants to be the rapper of the year with Jay-Z. No, he is locked in and he is ready for the football season. You talk about that engagement when it comes to a Kenny Galladay. Last year, he didn't practice that much because of injuries. This year in training camp, people were wondering, hey, look, is this guy, he's not going up for the ball. This guy's not, it doesn't look like Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay are synced. But towards the end of preseason, in the camp, like at the Jets-Giants joint practice, started making plays, was going up for the balls. Now, for the same thing, last year, you couldn't be around him that much, but this year, you got to be around Kenny Golladay. And not to continue to jump on and talk about Kenny Golladay, but they paid him a lot of money. What are your feelings on him from comparing his demeanor or what you saw from him last year to this year going into week 1?
Yeah, probably not as positive, certainly at this point. I mean, we got Kenny Golladay in the locker room this week, and I asked him directly. I said, "Are you excited? Are you excited for this season?" Because, you see him, Brandon. He doesn't always seem excited about things. You know what I mean? And you can be very businesslike and go about your job, but he hasn't been productive. He doesn't seem very engaged to me. I said, "Are you excited for the season?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "How does that, you don't always show it." And he looked right at me, and he's a lot taller than me, and looked down at me and said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to look?" And I said, "You're just supposed to look like yourself. It just doesn't always come across that way." He says he's excited. Then the conversation ended pretty quickly after that. So, look, we'll see. Look, the thing about Kenny Golladay and comparing him to Kadarius Toney is Kenny Golladay has a body of work in this league, right? He has been a 2-time 1,000-yard receiver. He's supposed to be above making a few plays in training camp. Now, maybe when the lights go on Sunday, in Nashville, he has a big game. If he does, God bless him. I'll be glad to write about it. It's just, I don't see that from him right now. Here's what I would say, Brandon, about Kenny Golladay. There's more to him than this, right? We've seen it in the NFL. There is more than that 37-catch guy last year who didn't have any touchdowns, who doesn't look particularly engaged in the summer. There's more than that. We've seen it in the NFL. So that's one of Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka's tasks, is to bring that out of him, because there's something there. It may not be $72 million worth, but there's something there they need to bring out. Look, we're all waiting for this offense. It has to be, better. And I think it will be better, because I think the offensive line is better. I really do.
Yeah, and going into this new year, Kenny Golladay, to me, I'm giving him, it's a proven year. Show what you can do, because like you say, he has a body of work. And one thing that I've noticed with my time in the NFL is some guys, they won't talk to you. Some guys, they're not going to do the social media. They're not going to tap dance for the media to try and sell records or try and market themselves outside of their body of work on the football field. And I remember Emmanuel Sanders just retired today as we're shooting this. I remember one day he said, "If you're going to go out and ball, you're going to go out and ball." And that's how I look at it. Some guys aren't practice guys. They're not the rah-rah guys. But when they step between those lines, they put on the show. And that's what he has the opportunity to do this year, to get everyone off his back and to show that he belongs not only with the Giants, but just in the NFL. Like you say, he has a body of work. But I want to talk, let's move on, stay in this offense, obviously stay in this passing game. One thing that for Eli Manning, always had a tight end. Jeremy Shockey, 6'7", Kevin Balls. I mean, you just go down the line. The Giants have always had a tight end. That's a question mark going into this year. Daniel Bellinger, as a rookie, slated to be the starter. He's got sure hands. He's got great hands. But is he going to be that playmaker in that Giants offense? I don't know. What is Mike Kafka going to do? How are we going to use those tight ends is what people are wondering. What are your thoughts on the tight end H-back position?
Well, Brian Daboll in Buffalo did not use a lot of 2 tight end sets, I mean, how many are in that room? I actually talked to Daniel Bellinger the other day. His locker is all the way at the end. Brandon, the Giants locker room.
Yeah.
It's past where Eli Manning was, so it's way in the corner, kind of like where I guess the kickers or the punter used to be, where Diassi, he's got a locker right here where Zach Diassi is. So I said, "Man, you're in like, I don't know if this is the end or the beginning." He said, "Well, I like it because I can get out and get to the food fast." So I said, "Okay, you've already got some veteran savvy because you're in a nice quiet spot where you can get to the food." But this might be a little bit too much too soon. This is a guy who caught, 65, 68 passes at San Diego State. They didn't use him a lot. Now, I liked him this summer. He didn't get hurt. Brandon, rookies, they get a little hamstring, they get a little calf, they get a little ankle, they miss time, it sets them back. This guy didn't miss time. He is big, he's statuesque, he looks like a Giants tight end. But they got Ricky Seals-Jones, Jordan Akins. They brought in guys to be the veteran to kind of shepherd Bellinger through this as a rookie. And they're not here, so he is the number one guy. And that's rough. That is rough. I think he has a role. I think he'll catch some passage. He's big enough to block. I don't think they're going to have him do a lot of heavy duty inline blocking, one-on-one situations. But, quite frankly, if you're a fantasy football guy, I don't know if you're going to activate Giants tight ends this year, because at this point, I just don't, I don't think Dable is going to throw to them a lot. They're not going to have two guys on the field a lot. Chris Myrick was a tight end last year. He's listed as a fullback now and an H-back. So he's not really going to be an inline blocker, I don't think either. So look, there's different ways to do it. I think he's going to have a lot of 3 wides, a lot of 4 wides, a lot of empty sets. Saquon, as you said, is going to be split wide. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be all over the place. I mean, what is the over/under on jet sweeps and wide receiver screens for Wan'Dale Robinson in week 1? 3, something like that. I mean, they're going to try to get the ball in his hands. So, Sterling Shepard is back, and he's kind of a guy it's easy to forget because he, hasn't been around because he's been hurt a lot, but he's looked good. Now, I don't think he can take 60 snaps in this game, but, picking and choosing in his first game coming back from an Achilles, there are some weapons. The offensive line, as I said, is better. Look, just run behind Evan Neal, okay? Really, just run a few plays behind Evan Neal and test that Titans defense, because, it will be a successful formula. I'll tell you that much.
Look, I love tight ends, but you had me at 3-4 wide. I heard 3-4 wide. I was like, my birthday's next month, Paul. All right, We're going to get into what we call Paul predictions. This is Paul's predictions. Paul, I'm going to give you a number. It's going to be a such and such player over, under, such and such yards or whatever, or sacks. I want you to go over, under, and really quick why that player will hit that. All right, Daniel Jones, 225 passing yards. Go.
Over.
Giants
because I don't think they'll have a lead. They're going to have to throw the ball.
Giants defense, 1.5 turnovers.
Under, because where are the big playmakers on defense right now? I don't know where they are. Don't forget, Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari are most likely not going to play. I don't know who's going to knock the ball away.
Saquon Barkley, 125 total yards.
Over. Total. Yes, I like the total. If you say rushing yards, I say under. Total yards, they'll throw the ball to him, and like I said, when you maybe you're trailing in a game, he should have 50, 60 yards in receiving. They'll throw some screens to him. We'll get some dump offs. Yeah, I like that number.
Kadarius Toney, 70 yards receiving.
Boy, I just talked up Kadarius Toney so much. I'm going to go under. I mean, I think they'll spread the ball around. That's a good number for him. I'll go under, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's over. Look, 2 catches, he can get 50, 60 yards. Look, we're waiting to see what he did in Dallas, right, in New Orleans. Get the ball, put your foot in the ground, and go. We think he's special there. As long as he puts his foot in the ground, he gets back up and doesn't get hurt. That's the main thing.
Kenny Golladay, 4.5 catches.
I'm going under. Until I see it. Like you said, if you're going to ball, you're going to ball, right? Until he balls, I'm not going to believe it. So I'll go under.
Giants defense, 2.5 sacks.
Under. Where are they coming? Now, they're not going to they're not going to probably, pass the ball that much with Tannehill. They're going to, Derrick Henry, I'm sure you got a Derrick Henry one in there. I'm going to say under. Like I said, their sack guys are not there. Wink can scheme up all he wants, but he can't, manufacture sacks if they're not there.
Paul, thanks for joining us.
What about Derrick Henry? You got to do a Derrick Henry over.
Oh, you want a Derrick Henry?
Yeah, come on.
Derrick Henry, 100 yards rushing.
I'll go over. You got to go higher than 100. Yeah, I thought you were going to say 200. Wink Martindale called him King Henry. He said he sits on the Iron Throne, right? I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan, but the person who sits on the Iron Throne doesn't always have a lot of success. So maybe they can knock King Henry off that throne.
Well, it looks like the Giants are going to go into the House of Dragons on Sunday, 4:25 p.m. against the Titans. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thanks, Brandon.
Paul's been doing a great job covering not only the new Giants offense, but just this new team in general. A lot of new faces, a lot of new working parts. And when learning a new playbook, Coach Coughlin used to say, know and know you know. Well, that goes for who you're playing against as well. ESPN Titans reporter Turron Davenport breaks down the Titans personnel in this week's Know Your Enemy. So let's get into these storylines heading into week 1. Thank you for joining us. Both the Giants and Titans are debuting new offenses. All eyes are on Titans OC Todd Downing and running back Derrick Henry against Wink Martindale's run defense. So which team wins that matchup and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. And for me, it's all about the sight adjustments because you know Wink Martindale, he likes to bring the house, overload blitzes. You never know who's coming. I think the Titans win that adjustment for one reason. There's a guy from UCLA by the name of Kyle Phillips who will work the slot, and he's able to get open quickly. And I think he's going to be someone that Tannehill will go to in those blitz situations.
All right, but let's flip it. It's head coach Brian Daboll's offense on paper, but he announced that new offensive coordinator Mike Kafka will call plays. All eyes are on Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley against the Titans defense. Who has the stronger unit and why?
Yeah, that's a good question because with Harold Landry going down, you have to rely on Bud Dupree. They're going to have to manufacture blitzes or pressure, rather, a little bit more as opposed to winning with that front four. So I'm going to go with the uncertainty, with the unknown, and that's the Giants' offense. I really like Kadarius Toney. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. And you look at what Mike Kafka was able to help do, it get Tyreek Hill open and in good situations at Kansas City. And then Brian Daboll, as you mentioned, from Buffalo, being able to do things with Stephon Diggs. I think Toney is going to be a big factor in this game. And he's someone, along with Saquon Barkley. So I give the edge to the Giants in that one.
Yeah, a lot of fans are excited about what Coach Daboll did with Stephon Diggs, but more importantly, what he did with Josh Allen. They're hoping Daniel Jones can reach that type of success as well. So a familiar face, Adoree Jackson, makes his return to Tennessee. He and Robert Woods are boys, and people have questioned both the Titans receivers and the Giants DBs heading out of preseason. So how do you see this matchup going down?
Yeah, I talked to Woods about that on Monday. They both went to the same high school. Adoree came out after Woods did, Junipero Serra, and he's looking forward to that matchup. I think the advantage is with the Titans, and I like Robert Woods, but also you look at, I mentioned Phillips, and Treylon Burks is a rookie that they're looking to really step up and kind of help fill that void from A.J. Brown, especially from a yards after catch perspective. He's big, he's agile, he's the type of receiver that corners will bounce off of, and he has the speed to run away from defenses. So I think the advantage is going to be with the Titans. I also add in a couple things from the tight end perspective, Chigakonkwo, as well as Austin Hooper working the slot. I think that's going to help them as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have that Aaron Robinson versus Treylon Burks matchup circled to see who wins that one. But so, in your opinion, what do the Giants have to do to beat the Titans?
I think they have to get that. Well, they have to do two things defensively, right? They do a really good job, at least Wink Martindale in the past has done a good job of run blitzing, right? You have those guys come up and they mug those gaps, and they're able to maintain that. And the last time the Ravens faced the Titans, they were able to corral Derrick Henry. So obviously different personnel, but they're going to have to figure out a way to, whether it's stacking the box or doing something to slow Derrick Henry down. But they also have to get pressure on Tannehill quickly. Rookie right tackle and Nicholas Petit-Frere. You have a first-year starter at left guard. They have to be able to attack those guys and find ways to get to Tannehill, force him to make an errant throw, an interception, or something like that. So I think that's what they have to do defensively. Offensively, it's all about Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney. And as you mentioned with Daniel Jones, he has that advantage in that he's one of the better rushing quarterbacks in the league. So he makes it 11-on-11 football. If you go man defense, back to the line of scrimmage, back to the quarterback rather, he can find a crease and make things happen, especially on 3rd and long. So those are some of the factors in my opinion.
Giants fans, did you hear what I heard in that interview? So he's saying there's a chance. But every week in the NFL, there's at least one weapon on each team that could single-handedly put up numbers and beat the Giants. We're going to call him a giant killer. Last season, Derrick Henry picked up an injury which forced him to only play 8 games. But during that time, he still got over 900 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns. Wink and the Giants defense are sure to have their hands full on Sunday. So how will the Giants defense stop a big back like Derrick Henry? But don't ask me. Let's talk to a big back himself, former Giants running back, Brandon Jacobs. It's all hands on deck if the Giants defense wants to stop Titans running back Derrick Henry on Sunday. And Saquon Barkley is primed for a big year. Former Giants running back Brandon Jacobs is here to break down the battle of the backs. I should have said the battle of the big backs, because you're the original big back. I mean, Giants fans remember when you ran over LaRon Landry, and Derrick Henry is like the new generational clone of you. So how does the Giants defense stop or slow him down?
Well, with me not being in the locker room, with the Giants, knowing their mentality and, like how they think, the defense I played with, that was a part of my team, they coming up and they hitting. They come and bring the wood. It doesn't matter who it was running the ball. But right now, I think the Giants have a great opportunity to make a mark. First week of the season, they got Derrick Henry. He's coming in. He was a 2,000-yard rusher a couple years ago. Got hurt last year. Still ran the hell out of the football last year as well. So they got a big challenge, and they could be the first team in this 2022 season to slow Derrick Henry down or possibly stop him. But I think they got a man now. It's all about your mentality going into it.
So it's basically a statement game or early statement game for Wink Martindale's defense when going up against Derrick Henry. If you see him in the open field, though, are you going high or are you going low?
Well, I'm coming trying. I'm his size. We're coming. I'm just trying to get in and bring it to him. That's it. And even smaller guys like LaRon Landry, he was smaller. Those guys then were smaller than I was, but they still came up. Like these highlights that we were talking about wouldn't happen if they didn't have the courage to come and the mentality to come try me, and that's why these highlights last. And that's why you see him. With Derrick Henry nowadays, I just see him stiff arming people, throwing them out of the way like they're not even there. I don't think back then in my era when I played, it would have been that easy.
All right, so basically what you're saying is don't be scared. Don't be scared. So let's talk about Saquon. He's looked good in this new offense throughout the spring and the preseason, but he's kind of going through something similar to what you went through in the offseason of 2011, working to shut up all that outside chatter. So what advice would you give the 2-6 heading into this season opener?
Just focus. One thing about it, and I've seen guys go through this, is come through. He got injured 2 years in a row. That's on his mind. Will I make it through healthy? So he's worried. He's probably worried about in his mind battling with an injury and coming up for his opportunity where he can make some money. I would tell Saquon Barkley to just go play football. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I think he's had plenty of success. He looks great this season. I had a chance to sit down and talk with him. It was during camp. And, I asked him, Bart, so what did you do differently this offseason than you have done in the past? He said, well, I didn't train as much. I didn't do as much, as I previously was doing. I'm like, you know what? I said that right after you went down the second time. I said, I don't think Barkley giving his body enough time to rest. And to hear him say that, I'm like, that's exactly what I thought. Like, I train nowhere near as hard as these guys are training right now. And I'm being honest. Like, to us, you go run some gassers, you go run 10, gassers, lift weights, and you're done for the day. Like, these guys are doing all kinds of different things, and as it helps them out, it's really hard on them as well. And I watch guys, like guys running up hills, and like Derrick Henry runs up hills with a weight vest on, pulling somebody. I'm like, man, I didn't do that type of stuff. I'm being honest, So he said he did a little less training this season than he's done in the past. So hoping that can be, a difference. But he got to go out and play and not worry about it. And I think he'll have a good season. My concerns is Saquon staying with the Giants. That's my concern. I would love to see Barkley be a Giant all the way, until he's done. So that's my worry.
But I'm glad you broke that down for us. I mean, we're talking about that body and training. It sounds like less is more in a sense, like it doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't mean that you're not grinding. It just means that you're giving your body a chance to rest. So let's move on to the running backs, the overall backfield. We all know in the NFL, you got to have a two-headed monster. We all know about the RB1s in this game, but their backups, Dontrell Hilliard and Matt Breida, will have to make some plays for their teams as well. Which team has the stronger backfield and why?
New York Football Giants, because we have seen Matt Breida do it. Like, we have seen him do it. You know, when he was in Buffalo, he had I thought he ran the ball great there. I think that's an area of the game we win. Is the running back, overall running back, just due to your backups.
I love it. Big bro, you still looking good. You sure you don't want to suit up on Sunday?
Nah, B. Lundy, I went through something where I was going to try that. And training every day, trying to get ready to do that. That is not the move for a guy like myself. Fall back and assume your place in life, because that's not it.
Hey, less is more. But I appreciate you joining us today. It's no secret. Tate Crowder, Xavier McKinney, and that Giants defense is going to have their hands full week 1. But it's not like it can't be done. I mean, look, it is week 1. Every team in the NFL is 0-0. The game plans are in, and each player and each team gets a chance to write their story. So what's it like going into a new season? Let's chat with my favorite kicker, 2-time Super Bowl champ, Lawrence Tynes, for what we like to call Story Times. Gather around, kiddos. It's Story Times. Let's get my guy up on this 2 box right here. There we go.
Look at those
with those 2 Super Bowl championships in the back. I love it. 2 box, 2 trophies, 2 chains. But it is week 1, Tynes. It is week 1, man. Like, it's for every football player out there in the NFL, every team out there. It's time for them to write their story. Give us stories. Give us stories of week 1 going in.
Well, Brandon, as you know, nobody's out of it in week 1. Everybody's got optimism, excitement, new players, rookies. I mean, I bet they can't even sleep the night before the game. But and the Giants, as Giants fans, should all be excited. A new regime. Obviously, we're excited to see what they look like against the Titans, but a very, very tough game for them right out of the gate, if I'm being honest. I mean, that's a tough matchup for them.
But that shouldn't. You think that matchup? You think that's going to deter Giants fans for really coming on board? I mean, just look at it. You've been part of bad teams that it's like, all right, it's game 1, new slate. Like we got to go out and win. Like, how much pressure you think these guys are going through? What's going through their heads right now?
Not a lot. I mean, it's week 1, right? They got a new staff. They believe in them. They've got some new players, some new toys, if you will. Giants fans should be excited. The way they looked in the preseason is not a real big indicator of how some teams look in the regular season. But I'll tell you what, they really looked like a team that knew what they were doing. And that hasn't always been the case in the last 3 or 4 years, as you know. They moved the football, the 2s and 3s. When you see the 2s and 3s moving the football like they did offensively, obviously you can't get any worse than that offense Jason Garrett had. I mean, I'm really looking forward to watching them. I'm excited. I'm really excited for Daniel Jones and Saquon and some of these guys on offense. I do worry about Galladay. I don't know what his deal is. Is he hurt? Is he slowing down? I just don't know. He didn't show us anything in the preseason, but that can all be erased, right? With week 1.
Well, I talked to Paul about that, and we've seen some of those players that didn't practice all week or weren't practice players but went out and balled between the lines when it was time. So you think he could be one of those guys? I mean, like you said, Jason Garrett's offense was nothing. It's a new year. So you think it could just be one of those things? He's just not a practice player. He's had 1,000-yard seasons. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he just balls this year, is it just one of those things where it's like, all right, everybody shut up, let the man do what he does?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think some guys can turn it off and turn it on. Plaxico, if I think back to him, and obviously you were around Plax was not a great practice player, right? If you really think about practices with him, and he showed up in the game. So hopefully Galladay can turn the switch on, man. We need him. We really need him to produce and help this offense out.
When we're thinking money, like there are a lot of guys, like Daniel Jones is playing for a new contract. Saquon Barkley playing for a new contract. Yep. Does that go through guys' minds? Because I know week one for me, when I went with the Giants down to Miami, and I'm looking at it, I got in on a Sunday and then had to quickly learn as much as the playbook as I could because I played that following Sunday. I got down there thinking like, this is my chance to get paid. So if you're a Daniel Jones, you got that big contract in front of you. How much of that you think is going through these guys' heads?
I think you think about it once the whistle goes, though, you're just playing football. But again, you start to think about these things before and after games. During the game, obviously, it's a non-issue. But obviously, Saquon and Daniel are two guys that are playing for extensions. And obviously, not just from the Giants, right? I mean, you can only franchise one of those guys. So we'll see which one it is. Hopefully, someone gives us the chance to franchise them, right? That's really what the Giants want. They want to have that decision to make at the end of the year.
All right, and for the young guys we're talking about, and the new guys in the locker room, it's kind of like I said, me going down to Miami that year, it's like a prove yourself type thing. Do you remember any stories of just guys coming in where it's like, all right, you've been with some 90 guys throughout the year, throughout the preseason, now the new guy steps in and it's like, all right, you got to have my six, you got to have my back. Like, you got any stories of Dominic Hickson? Remember when Hickson came in, everybody's like, who's this guy from the Broncos?
Yeah, he came in and played well. And then Dave Tollefson was a late add that year. Two guys who obviously we won Super Bowls with, and obviously I won 2 with them. But two guys that kind of got traded for early in the season that came in and made an impact on the roster, mostly on special teams. So, we'll see some of these young guys getting opportunities on special teams. And, to be honest with you, they weren't really good in the preseason, but you can't judge special teams in the preseason. There's so many different bodies and parts out there. But certainly Thomas McGahee will get those guys going this year.
Get excited, Big Blue, and I want to hear your energy at the games because it is a new year. The Joe Shane, Brian Dable era is here. Giants football is here, and it all goes down Sunday, 4:25 Eastern in Nashville. It's Giants, Titans. Football is back, baby!